Hey aspirants, welcome to Insights IAS initiative. Hope you all are doing good and preparing well for your exams. So, the first topic for today from the newspapers would be the crisis of post colonial state. So, as the name suggests here, this topic is very relevant for us in GS paper 1, that is post independence topic, and also it would be relevant to essays if you get any topic related to governance, democracy, and all these ideas. So this topic is about decolonialization process. So here the author tells that post-colonial state, that is those governments which were formed after independence from colonial leaders, when they started their journey towards democracy, it was filled with promises, various promises which include eradication of poverty. It included eradication of ignorance among the people. It included eradication of illiteracy among the huge population. At the same time, the bigotry also needed to be challenged. So, the idea is that this state or the governments that came into existence, they were not modeled on the social structure. Let's say, for example, societies are fragmented based on caste, feudalism, and other kind of distinctions across the world. But this state never represented any of the social structures. They kind of stood above the social structures without bending to the pressures of any one social class. So this was visible in India when the whole constituent assembly was formed based on electoral process, and it had people ranging from or representing different sections of society, not representing only one class or one caste altogether. So this was the idea of most of the post-colonial states. So this was, remember this as a feature and a kind of promise with which the whole post-colonialization or post-colonial state stood for. So the second idea or the second characteristics of such kind of states were they were autonomous, or they were free from any kind of external pressures, because they had their own aims and goals to work on, and these aims and goals were mainly shaped by the colonial past that they had. So this colonial past, which was atrocious, not based on democratic credentials, not based on equal voting principles, all these were the kind of experiences which made this government, these kind of states, to be autonomous, not to be thinking forward for any other idea or any other kind of repressions from the other part of the world. So the next part the author talks about is the energy and enthusiasm that the states were having. So they were energetic for what idea? To fulfill the promises that we saw in the first slide already. Plus, this also included, or in addition to that, the main idea was spreading values of enlightenment. So this enlightenment included the idea of basically what democracy stood for, what is the role people are going to play in making and functioning of this democracy. So this kind of states included India. It also included many countries in South Asia. The state had this kind of states existed in Africa and even in Latin American countries. So with these characteristics, the author compares that what has happened to such an energetic and enthusiastic state currently, or let's say what is the current status of all these states. So in addition to these three, another important parameter on which these states were functioning was the fourth one. We can take it down as it is about the states had to provide not only economic development. This was anyway the intention of every state, but in addition, they also had to go for social and political enlightenment. So this was the other extra additional work that the states had to do. But if you see in the present scenario, where do all of these states stand is the idea that the author discusses. So what are the changes now? Under this, the first one the author talks about this, the relative autonomy that we spoke about, that the relative autonomy state is having from the social structure, it is no more true. that is, we can write it down as autonomy from social structure is a myth now. It is no more existing. The reason, the states today, it is told that, are hollowed out internally as an organization owing to new reforms that have advocated more of private management practices, especially in what arena? In public arena. So the author talks about how private management practices have crept into public administration. So this idea was to go for a thinner, these words are very good to use in your answers, thinner, effective, and efficient administration. So efficient or administration or state. So but then this process, what happened is, the state has given up the public spirit of public organization. So basically, most of the public administration today is being handled by the private organizations, is the idea that is discussed here. So the second change the author talks about is, while economic growth and development has been percolated downwards, there is no denial of the fact it flowed upward more disproportionately. That is, though we see that there is a lot of downward growth story, downward in the sense, we can talk about trickling down effect, where growth in top level percolates to the ground level. This has happened, but most of the wealth still remains concentrated towards the upward or upper sections of the society. So this is the change, which also is true for India, which is stable since decolonialization time. And if you see, the wealth generation has been not so equal as it is expected to be. So the third change the author talks about is, there is a qualitative shift in the orientation of states' promise of development. So if you see, there is development going on. Without a doubt, there is economic development, there is a lot of social development, there is political development too. But what about enlightenment that we are talking about? Enlightenment is bringing a new reform in the mindset of the people, not just the processes. So though we are going forward in the developmental race, the states especially are failing to fulfill the idea of enlightenment. So the fourth idea discussed by the author is, many states, it is not in a generic term, but many states today are unstable. So where are they basically going towards? These unstable states are nothing but there is a lot of decline, that the states' values declined to civil wars. There are many wars going on, as we just saw in the case of Syria and the others. Civil wars is going on. In many other countries, there is a movement towards fundamentalism or fundamental conflict. So neither development nor enlightenment nor basic security is being provided by states in these countries where civil wars and fundamentalism is on the peak. So the fifth idea or fifth comparison that the author has given is with respect to the values of enlightenment and secularism. So when it comes to secularism and enlightenment, author tells that religious and tribal fundamentalism of various shades, they have shaken the foundations of post-colonial states as of now. So many states which started off as a secular country, even in those states, theological movements are taking place, threatening the whole idea of secularism. So basically, the author is trying to compare what this whole state started off their journey with and where today they have been progressing. Are they somewhere close to achieving their beginning decisions, or let's say the targets, or are they losing directions? So with this, we'll move towards a very good comparison of Bonapartist state. So Bonapartist is none other than the comparison to Napoleon Bonaparte, who comes as a significant personality in our world history. So Napoleon Bonaparte is known to have abolished inequality in the society. He brings equality between the classes, abolishes feudalism, makes it easy to do business. So with this idea, a Bonapartist state is usually compared. So it is also kind of autonomous in nature. Bonapartist state. So what this author is telling, that all the states in the post-colonial world, they started off as Bonapartist state, having autonomy in their decision making, bringing inequality of the classes, talking about removing inequalities, abolishing feudalism, and all these ideas. But today, these states are in crisis. That is, some of them are moving towards the direction of East Asian development. So, what is the meaning of this? There are no doubt guaranteeing economic development, but there is no political rights available. So, this is one way of the states that are moving towards anarchy. On the other hand, there are other states which are moving towards fundamentalist collapse. Okay, what is the meaning of this fundamentalist collapse? It is like many of the African states where fundamentalism has crept in, giving rise to a tussle between the government, military, the militant organization, and the establishment of military dictatorship and the like. So basically, here there is a small transition that the author is telling about. That is, a Bonapartist state is now converted into a class state, which is based on the money. On the other hand, the secular state has changed into theocratic state, and citizens, there's a transition in them as well. The citizens have become mere consumers of services. Provided by whom? Is it the government? No, provided by the private sector. So this change is the current status of the post-colonial countries. So in the promise of the post-colonial state, if you know, there lies the lives of millions of poor and ordinary people. So this could be a very good analysis for us when you get questions related to what is the current condition of post-colonial states in paper 1. Also in various essays related to the topic, as we have discussed earlier. We have a practice question for you as well. So critically analyze the challenges faced by post-colonial states in balancing the legacy of colonial governance structures with aspirations of nation building and social justice. So for 150 marks, do write this 150 words, and 10 marks, do try to attempt this question. It would be a very good practice for you. The second topic is a very interesting initiative started by a civil society organization, and the name of this initiative is Girl Interrupted Initiative. So this is a very beautiful concept where it was started by Child Rights and You organization under the ambit of its Puri Padhai Desh Ki Badhai campaign. So the concept here is about addressing interruption in girls' education at secondary level especially. So why is there interruption in a girl's education? It is because of the societal norms. It is because of the financial barriers we can talk about. And it is also because of the gender biases that exists in the society. So this is a very interesting campaign. Unlike other campaigns which are just based on some random images, this campaign is a series of images that make one pause and question why they are incomplete. So if you see in this image, it is growth interrupted. So she never stopped asking questions and never stopped seeking answers until she left school. So here the girl's eyesight or this part is completely missing, and engineer interrupted. She was quick to grasp the problem and never rested till she slowed it until she left school. So here the jigsaw puzzle remains incomplete. What is the reason the engineer in her is incomplete and the vision of this girl is incomplete? Is because of the various social constructs and the problems that we are facing. So when somebody comes across these images in large scale, for example, this is posted in Mumbai Metro, where you can see the tone part of this whole. It's not tone, it is deliberately left empty to show how gaps exist and how the life of women are usually interpreted or interrupted because of the social establishments, right? This is a concept that is conceptualized by Tista Things. So what is the idea here? It focuses on the idea that a woman's contribution to society is not just for her own sake, but for the nation to prosper. A woman needs to be educated. So if you see what is the idea behind this or how you would like to use it in your answers, it would be very good example for GS paper 1 Indian society gender topic, or women and the organizations related to issues related to women. So how this campaign would work? So this campaign would be very relevant because it is based on emotional appeal. So why we are taking this campaign as an example? Because many a times in your case studies, you would be asked to address some deeply ingrained inequalities in the society like gender, caste, let's say child marriage, untouchability. So these are the things that cannot be changed overnight. It needs a lot of efforts from the side of the administration to bring in attitudinal change, for which multiple layers of motivation and persuasion needs to be done. So these kind of campaigns, when you use it in your case studies as a solution, it would definitely be a practical way of solving a problem and making a lot of difference at the ground level. So note it down for your GS paper 4 as well. So when it comes to emotional appeal, the idea is by striking the emotional chord of how a girl would have met her dream if given a chance, that emotions would definitely make people stop and pause and think what's wrong here. So especially the visual impact, this image of blurred or missing links, it triggers the feels of hope and urgency. So kind of putting people at a race that we need to do something about it at a rampant scale. So this is one way of utilizing such images or campaigns. The second one is cognitive dissonance. So this term you would be familiar with when you have completed your ethics. So this idea highlights that the disparity between societal beliefs, that is, society usually respects girls. It believes that girls are very precious. A daughter especially is very lucky for the family. She's always the pet of everyone. So these are the societal beliefs. And on the other hand, what are the actions? The actions is that many a times due to the same social constructs, a girl is having to discontinue the education. So there is somewhere dissonance between the societal beliefs and the societal actions. So many a times people would not be aware of these distortions, and these kind of campaigns will make people it's a kind of remembrance to the people that this is a reality where our beliefs and our actions are not in tune with each other. So what is the result of it? It creates a kind of discomfort. It creates a kind of unrest in people that we are somehow not following what we are actually believing in. So it motivates people to align their actions with their own value system. So remember to use this cognitive dissonance theory in your answers as well. So the third application is appeals to identity. Appeals to identity. It means giving importance to girls' educations, or linking the importance of girl education to, let's say, national pride as a concept, that in India girls are educated, and also leads to cultural identity. So multiple identities, that identity of a daughter being linked to national pride and cultural identity, is something that people can easily relate to when you're communicating the concept of giving education to a girl child. And the fourth idea is that works on human psychology, called reinforcing through repetition. So what is the meaning of this? It is kind of exposing audiences to consistent messaging. So what is the advantage of this? The importance of the campaign is frequently told to the people, and when you repeat some things multiple times to the people, they will retain it in their memory, and it will try to haunt them when they come to a situation where they have to take a choice of their girls' education or not. So this analysis would be very relevant for your GS paper 4 case studies especially. And also you can change this idea of girl child's education with, let's say, untouchability, and let's say concept of transgenders or LGBTQ communities rights. So in all these kind of case studies, you can use this campaign as a solution. The third article is about the coercive power of pride. So, in the past two articles, we had past two episodes of ICANN, we had seen about anger, we had seen about the power of silence, we had seen the power of smile. So, anger and pride would be treated as vices in our paper 4, whereas silence, smile would come under virtues or good qualities. So, pride as a topic would be relevant with respect to vices. We can expect direct questions, or it would be relevant for us in our essays. So, what is the exact meaning of pride? So, it is a feeling of satisfaction. It's a feeling of satisfaction in one's achievements, qualities, or possessions. It is often, manifested as unwillingness to acknowledge mistakes, overconfidence, or looking down on others. So basically, this is considered as a personality defect. So being proud of one's achievement is definitely not the point of discussion here. The idea is the extremities of the idea of, or the feeling of prideness. So it's considered as a personality defect because it is found in majority of people in the world currently. It is a negative trait, and almost we can call it to be ubiquitous these days. So people may be proud of their own let's say achievements. People can be proud of their own language, culture. This is not the pride that is harmful, but when all of these identities goes to the extreme level, that is when pride becomes a vice. So what is the concept of pride here? It is about regarding oneself holiest than the other person. So the emotional element which makes one feel superior to others in any respect. It may be looks, it may be beauty, it may be related to intelligence, let's say ownership of properties, religion, faith, class, caste, anything. So it gives a positive emotional kick which makes a person feel elated or makes a person feel very happy. This sense of elevation leads to many repercussions, which include, we can note it down as 5 points. It distorts the personality of an individual. It distorts the personality of an individual. That is, it hides the original feelings, or we can tell hides the actuality behind a person. The second point would be the people who have extreme pride, they look down upon other individuals. This is a second outcome. The third outcome is about, as a result of this, people maintain distance from the individual who is suffering from extreme pride. So, as a result of which, cracks develop in various relationships. It may be personal or private relationships or public relations. It would impact all of them, and the ultimate result would be it has a negative impact on the rationality of the person and directly impacts decision making. So, the same idea of pride is given a spiritual connotation where pride is considered to be a result of ignorance. And it is considered to be an illusion. Remember these two, it is about the spiritual connotation of pride. So there is a religious scripture called Yoga Sutra, in which it is identified that in case of pride, the soul identify itself as a unique living entity. So by experiencing this individuality through a material concept called ego. So according to Yoga Sutra, every soul is unique, and this uniqueness at times it is experienced through the development of ego. So basically, material elements of human body have three major attributes. So what are these attributes? Many of you would have heard of it already. The three major attributes include Rajoguna, the second one is Satoguna, and the third one will include Tapoguna. So here, the imbalance of Rajoguna leads to pride, because Rajoguna is needed, but it should be done in moderation. When there is imbalance of this, it leads to excessive pride of the individual. For example, the author quotes about epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata, where the characters like Ravan and Duryodhana, they experience ego and the extreme pride. And if you see modern Indian history, we have the example of Hitler and we have the example of Mussolini, both of whom can be given examples of individuals with pride. So, what is the role of pride in the present world, or how is this a vice in the present world? So, the first concept is ego. So, it has a long term concading effect. It can be called as a cascading effect in the long run. It severely impacts peace building process and impacts the productivity of the individual. At the same time, it has a negative impact on progress as well. So second one is, what is can be done to reduce ego? It could be practicing meditation. So, if you recall, we had covered an episode on meditation, the importance of meditation in the present world, in the backdrop of 21st December being declared as International Day for Meditation on India's insistence. So, if you have not watched, please watch the episode on importance of meditation in the present world. So, this would help in regulating the pride of an individual. And the third suggestion that is given as a result of this is developing humility. So humility is opposite of pride, we can tell. When a person is proud, humility as a concept get vanished away. So as a concluding note, the author tells that pride, when unchecked, it distorts ethical judgment. It fosters arrogance. It undermines the virtue of humility, as we have discussed, and empathy, all of which we just discussed now is essential for ethical leadership. So, true integrity actually lies in balancing between self respect and respect for others. So, this is the concluding note for why pride is a vice and how to solve vice as a problem in the modern context. So we have a quote for you. Pride is concerned with who is right. Humility is concerned with what is right. So this quote is apt, or if we get this as a topic in ethics, and you're asked to write how this quote or what this quote means to you, in that respect, please be ready with this particular article. So the fourth topic is about a hunger strike that is carried out by Punjab's farmer leader Jagjit Singh Dalelwal, which has entered 27th day of fasting due to his demand for legalizing MSP for the farmers. So it is a satyagraha where the farmer leader is planning to fast unto death, and it is said that his health is in a critical condition. So, with this, we'll just look into the various aspects of hunger strike. So, hunger strike, it is a tool to inspire. We can note it down as a tool to inspire, dissuade, or pressurize others. So basically, hunger strikes have always been a powerful tool for political and social change. So if we see even in our modern Indian history, we have the example of Jatin Das, Bhagat Singh, and others who have fasted for prison reforms. So this is a very good quote told by Jatin Das, as in, it is far easier to die of a police bullet or by going to the gallows than perishing away iota by iota in a hunger strike. So he always prefers to die by hunger strike inch by inch rather than being killed by a police bullet or to be hanged to death. So if we see what Gandhiji has told about hunger strike, He tells that hunger or fasting is a spiritual activity, and it is acting as an instrument. Basically, hunger strike or fasting is an instrument which is used to cleanse a person's body, mind, and soul. So what is the advantage of this? It would try to address the conscience of the oppressor. So basically, it is talking to the conscience of the member whom we are trying to persuade. So this has been a very popular way of putting one's own viewpoint from quite some time in the world over. But if we see from ethical lens, this mode of protest is leads to various dilemmas. So let us analyze these dilemmas one by one. So the first dilemma here is between moral pressure versus coercion. So if you see, according to the lens of moral pressure, hunger strike is a kind of appeal to the soul of the opponent, and by striking the emotional chord, of human dignity, it is trying to bring changes in the heart of a person. At the same time, it is considered to be a persuasive tool, basically, to persuade somebody to accept your demands. So in this lens, it is ethical and well. However, it is also considered as a coercion, because we are basically forcing someone to accept our opinion. So this is one of the first dilemmas, that is between moral pressure and coercion. It would also account to forcibly making somebody accept your viewpoint. So this is the first dilemma. When it comes to the second dilemma, it is about responsibility of government versus rights of the individual. Rights of the individual. So it is known that it's the constitutional responsibility of every government to safeguard the lives of the people. So as we know, satyagraha comes with the risk of satyagrahi's health deteriorating over a period of time, which would ultimately lead to the death of the person or lifetime disability of the individual. Hence, many a times when the satyagrahis are protesting or going for a hunger strike, government goes and arrests them or kind of detains them, tries to force feed them. When this incidents happen, the protesters argue that it is their individual right, because in India we do have people do have the right for peaceful protest. So this is a right that they quote and tell that we have a right to protest for the demands in a peaceful manner, which also include hunger strike. So whether responsibility of the government should prevail or rights of the individual should prevail is a dilemma that comes before us in this case. So the third dilemma that comes here is with respect to violence. Violence of, let's say, violence towards self versus non-violence as a principle. So, the practice of fasting by refusing to eat is also a kind of violence on one's own body. Body goes into all the struggles and tribulations when a person fasts, which is nothing but violence. On the other hand, this counters the whole idea of non-violence, which talks about not causing physical harm to put forward one's demand. So basically, these two are counteracting each other, telling that we should not do violence but being violent towards our own body. So this whole definition or this whole concept of uh, we can say hunger strike here would be relevant in our essays mainly, in essays. For example, we had an essay in 2021 which is called "There are better practices to best practices." So this hunger strike is usually regarded as one of the best practices available in a peaceful manner to attain one's goals, but it is still considered not so appropriate because of the ethical dilemmas it is giving rise to. Hence, in such essays, this argument would be very much relevant. So when it comes to GS paper 4 as well, we have its application in virtues. So a hunger strike or a satyagrahi requires a lot of patience. They also require a lot of, it's a kind of self sacrifice that a person does for a public cause, both of which is essential for good leadership. So it can be seen through the practice of hunger strike. So leaders in the recent times like Sonam Wangchuk, Irom Sharmila, who have resisted many attempts, or we can tell Sonam Wangchuk in the case is demanding 6th schedule status for Ladakh. Irom Sharmila's demand for removal of armed forces Special Powers Act. All these things are nothing but telling us how these leaders are altruistic in nature and they're trying to work for the whole community as a whole. So do remember this argument for usage in your answer rather than expecting a direct question on ethical dilemmas of a hunger strike. So the last topic of today's discussion is about Shyam Benegal. He is rightly called as the filmmaker who gave voice to the voiceless, and he has expired yesterday, that is on Monday. As a tribute to his contribution to Indian cinema and vivid depiction of Indian society through cameras, let us discuss the relevance of one of his movies on for our exam today, which was also recently featured in the Cannes International Film Festival. So the movie we are going to discuss today is about Manthan. So this is the movie we are talking about, Manthan, which is called The Churning. It was a movie that was filmed in 1976. Okay, so this movie was recently restored by Film Heritage Federation. So what there are many things we can learn from this story. Basically, it is this whole concept of Manthan is a fictionalized account of India's white revolution or Operation Flood, which is picturized by giving many realities of Indian society, which can be aptly used in our essays and also in our GS paper 4 answers. Plus, as it reflects Indian society greatly, the protagonists of this movie can be used as example in our GS paper 1 Indian society papers as well. So the first idea is about, it is a fictionalized version of white revolution. So even after 50 years, this movie, even now, it reflects the churning of caste, class in our rural societies. So if you watch this movie that was filmed in 1976, even now many of the ideas about the social structure would be equally relevant, right? So that is one of the important points. Though second idea, the author, or we can tell what we can learn from the Manthan movie is about crowdfunding. So this was the case where when Shyam Benegal approached the farmers who are beneficiaries of the Operation Flood and told that they want to make a movie regarding this, 5 lakh farmers back then, 5 lakh farmers have contributed rupees 2 each. So this whole movie is produced by farmers themselves by making sure that their story reaches the multiple audience. So this example tells that social progress and profit can coexist. So this is the second lesson we can learn. We can also relate it to the previous ICANN episode of enlightened capitalism, correct? So this is also an example for it. So the third idea is about Dr. Manohar Rao. Remember the protagonist here. Manohar Rao is none other than the individual who represents the real life's Varghese Kurian, the father of Indian white revolution. So when Manohar Rao goes into a village where the people are exploited by the money lender, who is a landlord of the village, to whom they sell their milk produced in their family at a very low rate. So this is nothing but the economic exploitation that occurs in the rural areas, marked by many systemic challenges which continue to haunt India's agrarian economy even now. So this kind of linkage is true even to the present day. So this idea is very well explained, where Manohar Lal tries to give an alternative to people telling that all of you farmers can form a cooperative society yourself, and this would lead to your own ownership of the milk production and gaining the profit out of it. So this Dr. Manohar Rao's role has been very well depicted, being a humble individual, down to the earth person who goes to the extent of understanding the reality in the rural areas. So at the same time, the author also, Sham Benegal, also talks about entrepreneurship and caste here. So Dr. Rao, that is in this case Manohar Rao, insists on equality in the village. So this whole concept gives a lot of insecurity to many in the village. They feel that it is threatening or disrupting the existing social order. So there is a lot of resistance that he has to face to give the idea of how cooperatives will actually help to the people. So even after the movie has depicted that, even after cooperative society is formed, the village sarpanch tells that those who are Dalits who are coming to sell their milk should make a separate queue. So this itself is telling how the movie very well captures the reality of rural segment of Indian society where caste system was quite prevalent. So next is the role of Bindu, the female character of the movie. So Sham Benegal is known for his movies, women are shown in a very bold way. That is, in a way that they are always having a clash between the traditions, or let's say the kind of traditional ideas, versus modernity, or what they actually want in the form of independence. So in this, the protagonist Bindu is a character who has irresistible conviction. She always yearns for freedom, but she wants to escape from the shackles of patriarchy, but she hasn't developed the confidence and vocabulary to take the next step. So basically, he represents the idea of patriarchy in the movie very well, which shows the conflict a woman faces when she is helpless to deal with her present situation. So another important character of the Manthan movie is the role of Bhola, who is a Dalit by his caste according to the movie. So this shows the anguished Dalit, this person who has almost lost his voice in a feudal system here where landlords and zamindars exist. He is rejoiced by the idea that there's a possibility of a level playing field through the power of vote. So this is the idea that cooperatives give. Every person will have a single vote here. So it is very well shown in the movie that when the voting of the cooperative society would be going on, Bhola tells to the people of his community that your vote matters a lot. Please think before you vote. So this is showing how a simple cooperative society has a great role in uplifting the lives of millions of population, and to uplift our whole rural economy out of poverty and bring equality in the rural areas. So and we know that of late Indian government is very much active in inducing the cooperative movement. We have a separate whole ministry on this end, so we can definitely expect questions with respect to cooperative societies in paper 2. So if you get a question on that, it would be very good for you to begin the whole discussion of the question with the Manthan movie, because it was recently accorded internationally because of the merits that it carries and the reality in which it has been shot. So remember the movie Manthan and the discussions of every character here, and if possible, do watch this movie. It's a very good depiction of many realities, and as a we can say tribute to Sham Benegal himself. So thank you so much for staying with us. Meet you in the next episode.